What's going on, everyone? Vampyr Gaming here, and before we begin, if you just do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a ton. I really appreciate it. You know, if not, and you're just a Shanks hater, no need. But if you're a Shanks fan, I feel like you feel semi-obligated. I don't know, but let's go ahead, dive in here. So in today's video, we are going to talk about 3 different Shanks builds, and then we'll also talk about how to build Shanks just overall and the possible cards you can play. The crazy thing about Red, of course, is Red, you know, while they don't have any great cards, they got a lot of cards. And so, like, they're all decent cards, but none of them are Gecko, Rebecca, Hina, Lucci, Spandam, blah, blah, blah good. They do have, of course, quite a variety of cards you can play, and I think that's what causes a big variety in the Shanks builds we've seen. And so we're going to have 3 deck lists. We'll talk about Control Shanks, Rush Shanks, and then more of the modern Shanks builds. And then we'll just talk about some of the cards that you can also add in, tech options, and then we'll round it out with my approach towards the deck. But so first up here, we kind of have the control build, which is exactly what you would expect it to be. We're going to play a little bit more control overall. So for those unfamiliar, the Shanks Leader is once per turn, you may activate this effect when your opponent attacks. Give up to one of your opponent's leaders or characters power minus 1000 for this turn. Now, this of course is a very unique effect, but it essentially, when your opponent plays on curve swings at your leader, you get a free block, is essentially what it is, and you get free 1k. So every turn that your opponent has is one extra 1k that you have in essence. And so it creates a unique play style in which you can play 10 drops with 4 or 5 life, depending on how your opponent's deck plays. And so it's like the best equivalent is a red Bonnie. And then, of course, the best part is we have quite a variety of red cards, which are arguably better than Bonnie cards. And so this is the first list. This is a control list. You want to kind of control the tempo, control the beat, control the board. And so first up, we have Otama, 4 of, best red card. Goes perfect with Lime Juice, because then you can make a 6k blocker unable to block, which can go a long way. And then also just great for if you need to remove something, partner it with some of the removal engines that we're going to be playing because of that control aspect, and allowing you to remove just slightly bigger characters, or if you need to swing into one. And then we've got Sanji. We're playing 2 of Sanji. Sanji turns on Roger during your turn if you need to. If you have an established Roger, you can play Sanji, take your last life, and then go for game with them not being able to block while you're doing so. So that is a very good use of this card. That's really the only reason we are playing it. And then we got 2 Zoro. 2 Zoro is more of a techie choice. You can play Zoro, but the great part is it's kind of high rolly. If you play that and then you swing, you're going to have 2 swings on the next turn. Typically, the 3 curve / 4 curve is one of the weakest turns for Shanks overall, just because there isn't many cards that you want to play unless you're playing Lucky Roo. And then again, you can't even play him on 3. And so Zoro gets to just swing, and then he's probably going to live because your opponent's going to establish a threat on their curve. And in doing so, they won't be able to answer this body. And if so, he's just going to absorb a swing. Or you can counter with like a 2k. Like, it's really easy to save him, and then you're going to put a lot of pressure, and then he just becomes too good for them to like answer. And he just kind of gets to stick around because all your other threats. So it's overall really nice. And of course, Rayleigh. Rayleigh is the best red card overall, in my opinion. It goes -3, -2, and does a KO. It also pairs very well with Shanks, because Shanks is going to give you an extra -1000. So instead of KOing a 6k, with the ability you can KO a 7. And if you partner that with an Otama, all of a sudden you're KOing a Gecko Moria. So Rayleigh has a lot of potential, but it also lowers their power until the end of their next turn, or into the end of your turn. Like your next, or till the start of your next turn. Gosh. And then, so it just takes a lot of pressure off on their swinging at you. Even if you just, like, you know, say there's this 9-drop Zoro, you make it a 6k. That goes so far, because normally they would Dawn it up, but now it's like, it's 3 less Dawn efficient. Uda is a little bit of a choice. You don't necessarily have to play Uda. A lot of people have been, and we'll talk a little bit more about this on the modern build, a lot of people have been opting to take Uda out, especially when you have cards like Zoro, because Uda is just a Zoro with a 1k, because you're going to play her on 1, and then on 3 you're going to swing 5 and go 5 in essence. So it's very similar in that aspect, but it does find you your pieces. We do play a couple of them, like the Lucky Roo and the Beckman, which can go and do a lot of work when you're trashing, when you're establishing a blocker and you block the 7k to KO something that Dofi just played out, little things like that, and just those nuances. So I think Uda's okay. And we got Shanks, the best card in the deck. You want to go to 10, you want to slam this down, and then all your opponent's cards just became less Don effective by 1, which makes lethal just a lot harder. If you've ever played against Foxy, you know the kind of pressure this card can have. And then, of course, he's at 12k, so then he can swing into something, remove a threat, or just smash face, and he's just going to go through. We're playing 2 Rayleigh. The blocker, I think it's fine. I think you could also just kind of, this is a little bit of flex here. You could play just 4 Lucky Roo, but I just want a little bit of the variety, because this, of course, gives you a little bit of card efficiency with the late game on play, draw 2, and then you trash 1 with that queen if they have 2 5Ks or more. And yeah, I think you could, if you really wanted to, you could just go 4 Lucky Roo and then play a Bad Manners. I think that's completely okay. But yeah, just wanted a little bit of variety and a play for the 5 outside of Yasop. Yeah, of course, we got Big Benjamin Beckman. He goes really hard in the paint because you get the trash 1. Black is slightly less relevant because we get this out there, and when you play Beckman, you can trash a Sabo. Black Yellow Luffy, you play this, trash a Sabo, and it's very strong, and it has counter, so it's removal with counter, which you just don't see. So it's a great addition to just the overall red engine. But yeah, you can partner this. If you have this and you have a Shanks established, you can also go Otama, play Beckman, trash a Gecko. Like, this just really strong overall removal. And then of course, you also have Hongo. Hongo can get you there as well. You can establish him early. If he sticks, you could rest him and then do a removal. He is also, of course, a 2K, and we love a good 2K. We're playing a lot. We're playing a lot of 2Ks. We're playing 12? 2Ks in this list. And then we played Yasop. Yasop makes you a 6K leader. He's not bad by any means. A lot of people have opted to cut him in the modern lists, which you will see as well, but overall pretty decent. You also get that Dawn -1, which is, or the 1x Dawn when attacking, minus a character by 1,000, which also goes, it goes a long way. I've said that a lot, but it goes a long way, because again, like, it's just those small amounts. You go boom, next thing you know, you're trashing a 7 rush ace. I don't think there's any other super relevant 7s, but it's also great for when you're swinging. It's almost like attaching 2 Dawn when going for a removal for the price of 1. So just let you put a little bit more pressure on characters and board. Again, we want to control the board. Lime Juice. Lime Juice is a really good card. Great addition to just red overall. He's like your generic Jambe, but worse, because Jambe is, of course, Straw Hat specific. This just turns off 1 blocker, but if they have like double Rebecca, you play 2 of these, boom, no blocker, things like that. And it does come up, isn't always relevant, but it does come up and it can win you games. And then we've got Lucky Roo. Lucky Roo, again, we're playing a control build, so this kind of lets us control the board. Things like Doflamingo, because it does a original power of 6. So if you play this on 4, on 5, if they don't Jinbei, even if they do a Jinbei, they have to do it after swinging 6, because then if they do Jinbei whatever, you're going to block KO like the Weevil that they just played, and it's like, okay, boom, you just traded, and then you just want to get to your late game, because all their 5, 6s are going to become just a lot weaker with this Shanks, and if you drop 2, they're just like nowhere, they're not swinging Dawn efficient at all, and that's exactly what you want. And so yeah, Lucky Roo, we're playing 3 again. I think you can play 4 of if you just swap out a Rayleigh. And we're playing 2 Gold D Roger. Not all builds play Roger, but Roger has been coming up a little bit more, and I've seen the benefits of running him as well. Some people are opting for a 1 of Spicy, which is also, in my opinion, fine, because you're not going to need it every game, but when you see him and he comes up, he absolutely goes to distance. Just because it's you or your opponent have 0 life if they block you in the game, so then they just cannot block in a lot of decks like the blocker up, things like Marshall D Teach where they have a lot of big blockers, or even, you know, the classic Rebecca, Sabo, oh Gecko, Rebecca, add back a Sabo, and so on and so forth, just kind of keeping you off and can really just get a lot of value. I think Rogers definitely earned his place, but I do think he is, and we'll kind of talk about him, I think, a bit more in the tech cards. Now, of course, Newgate, the control build is really the only version that plays this Newgate, but this Newgate is very good, especially in a Doflamingo-dominated world. The great thing about this Newgate is, as well, that I think a lot of people might not realize is specifically in the Dofi matchup, once you establish a Shanks, this can KO anybody that Dofi's going to play outside of Josu. You can KO anybody that they're going to play outside of Josu because they will all be 5Ks and it's just be like, boom, rest KO, rest KO, rest KO, rest KO. It's going to put in a lot of work. And this is one of those few decks where you kind of get that extra minus, so this is going to put in just a little bit of extra work because a lot of us who have played this in Marco will know that, like, you know, the extra -2 is phenomenal. It's like, you know, if you have 2 of these, it's -2, you're getting the same thing on your Newgate. I did opt to put 2 Ace in here. Ace is less seen in the control build, more in, like, the modern. But Ace I still think is a really good card, and I think he's worth a spot just because he's pretty good against Lucci and Doflamingo. You know, they play Gravity Blade, he's Gravity Blade resistant, all those different things. Big fan of the Ace. Because, yeah, if you stick Ace, and then you have, like, you go Zoro into Ace, swing with Zoro again, Ace's sticky body. It's just really hard to answer those. And if those guys stick, then you just kind of get a snowball from there. And he can't be trashed. So, like, in the mirror, this card matters because he can't be trashed. Gum Gum Red Hawk. Again, this is more of a modern card, but it is a little bit relevant here as well because you can combo it with Shanks' ability, make it a KO of 5K. Is what's super unique about the Shanks Leader here, is you can use Shanks' ability, -1, and then KO. One thing to keep in mind is you do have to use this effect. If you watch that championship series in Japan, someone swung with Dofi, played a Jinbei, guy activates the ability, minuses 1K on Jinbei. Jinbei plays out Boa, attaches 1 Don. He is once again a 5K, so Red Hawk is not going to work. So there are small nuances like that, but overall, really good card. And I think this card really just excels specifically against Dofi, especially once you have a Shanks established. And then one bad manners kick course. We play a lot of bricks. Brick, 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 brick. We play a lot of bricks. And so just having this, even though we play a lot of 2Ks, we play 12 2Ks, we play a lot of bricks. And this kind of just helps us out when we see too many of those bricks. All right, yeah, and that is it for the control build. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rush build. All right, so this is the Rush Shanks build. This is probably my least favorite of the builds, but I think it has its merits, right? If you're just playing Sonic, gotta go fast, completely okay. Again, we see Otama, and we're going to see 3 Zoro this time. Zoro, of course, ideal turn 3 play. We go 3, we're going to play swing. And this time opting for Makino over Sanji, mostly just because we have the Uda. And if we're going second, we can play Uda and just spit out the Makino and then force him to deal with it. Or on 4, we can go Uda, play a Makino, boost a 3, swing 3, play Zoro, swing 3 with Zoro, and go 5 with lead and smacking him with 3 5s just right out the gate. Putting on a lot of pressure just early on, which is why I'm opting for Makino in this specific one, because you just, again, this is just go face, go face, go face, go face, go fast, go face, go fast. And then playing 4 of the Monkey D Dragon. I think this card's okay. I keep drawing this card in Shanks as of right now. I've had like 3 in my hand. and like no mid game, which has been a slight struggle. But slamming down 3 of these back to back to back is actually not bad. Just because how good this card is. So we do go ahead and play 4, but I think you could flex this down to like 3, put another Zoro, anything like that in. Still 4 Rayleigh. Again, I stand on business when I think that this is the best red card that we've seen recently. Just because, again, it puts on pressure and it keeps that pressure off of you, but it also removes a body. So you can partner it, again, with other effects, remove a body, and then you can even -2 things, remove a completely different body. And again, we're playing Uda Searcher. We have a decent amount of targets. We're playing the Lucky Roo. Not playing Rayleigh in this one, but we are playing a Lucky Roo, and we do have those lime juice to stop the blockers. I think it still is really good with the Makino, going 1, attaching 3, swinging. I think you can put in the work. Shanks, again, enough said on Shanks. Same thing with Beckman. Even though this is more of a rush one, Beckman is still very good. On curve, you get to establish a threat on 7, which there is. This is the best turn 7 play in red, in my opinion, outside of the niche deck in which Newgate would be the better play, because this card has counter, 1k less power, but he has counter, and he trashes instead of KOs, and he hits a 6 instead of a 5. And then, of course, Hongo. Again, you can kind of establish this early against certain decks. Use that minus. It can go a long way. It is a 2k, but it is a -2k, and he can swing if you attach Dawn. So, still playing Yasop in this build as well. Just keep the pressure off of you, but also just overall best turn 5 play, and then you can just kind of ladder up and rush from there. Lime Juice, again, no blocks. Lucky Roo. Really good blocker, really tough to deal with because he states original power. So even like Black Yellow Luffy, if they have Punch Luffy and they buff him, you can still block and remove that Punch Luffy. Again, no blocks. We're going to rush them down, and then we can slam this down to seal the deal. Also, unblockable Luffy, playing 2 of this. I think 2 is fine. You could, of course, replace with a Yasop, but again, we're playing bricks on bricks on bricks. We don't want to build a house here. So we want to play the Luffy. He's going to be a really great swing. If they're at 1 life, you can force them to 0 the next turn, follow up with a Roger. So really cute play there, because they can still block what he swings, but you slam this and you go 11, put them at 0, and then you slam this and you're going 13. And then, of course, Bad Manners Kick Course, playing 2, because again, we're not trying to build a house. We want to have an answer for those bricks. All right, and then let's go ahead and take a look at the modern build. All right, now this is a more modern Shanks build. This was, I want to say it was pioneered by Noel, if you're familiar with him, but it might have been played by somebody else. If so, apologies to whomever originally crafted this, but this is really the first time we see the takeoff of Red Hawk. I personally am a huge fan of Red Hawk. A lot of people, I was talking to Jan Suko, and I was like, I played Red Hawk in Ace back in the day.
The big thing about Red Hawk is, like, the removal is great when it's great, but overall, it is just a protective event that you might get something for. Of course, you do have the benefit. You can leverage Shanks's ability to remove a 5k. However, this card, just again, it's going to be great. You get the counter 4,000. And it works perfectly if you play Dragon. You get to go 7, 9, and have protection. Or you can play a Rayleigh minus, and then Red Hawk, and you're KOing a 7 or 8k with Shanks' ability. And it makes it a lot more expensive for them to save him. Because if you know how to play against Red, you just attach 1 Dawn to the character, and boom, it's out of range. Great. Some people forget. And you'll catch a couple of people with that, and you'll get to successfully, just do that. But if they want to keep that character, and that's what's so great about it, too, is even if you just fake it, too, they're going to attach Dawn unnecessarily, and it works out in your favor, because they can establish threats, or they can, like, save their bodies, or, like, they can save 1. But overall, it does a lot, and it is a counter, plus the trigger is like a beige. It's going to negate an attack. you go minus 10,000. So I'm a huge fan of this card just overall, and I think it's okay. But yeah, so we play 4 Otama. We play 4 Sanji in like a more modern version. Sanji, again, we're taking that life. You can also, if you really want, I'm not a huge fan of this move, but I've seen some people do it. Let me know in the comments, are you a fan of this? Do you think it's good? But people play Sanji on 2, then on 4, they use the Sanji ability and smack face for 7. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I tried it a couple times and it just never felt right. Dragon, we're playing the Dragon. It's the best rusher, second best rusher, best red rusher in the game because you get to go 7, 9. Rayleigh, again, best card. We're playing 2 Uda. Just really don't have to play any Uda. A lot of these lists are kind of cutting Uda out. You could just cut Uda up on like guard point or go radical beam. A lot of people are playing radical beam as well. We're opting for the guard point, but Uda is just a little bit less necessary. You kind of trim down your overall Shanks pirate, red hair pirate engine, and so Uda becomes slightly less necessary. 10 Shanks, playing Rayleigh, just because, again, you get that. This is more of a late game card. You're getting that value. You play him, he replaces himself. You get a little bit of cycle for those bricks. Beckman, again, trashing is just too good. Hongo, get that minus. Decent turn 3 play if you really just want to play him in a thing where he might stick. Lime Juice, these 2 together work really well together. 2 2Ks. So we're playing 16 2Ks in this list, which is a whole lot of counter. We're playing a whole lot of counter and just really strong pressure cards. 2 Roger, again, you could really play 1, but 2 I think is just enough to see him because he does come up. 4 Ace, you play the Ace because he's, again, a sticky body. The perfect turn 5. You go 5, then you play 7. With Beckman trashing something, he cannot be trashed. He cannot be bottom decked. He is just the most impervious overall. And then Red Hawk, we talked about Red Hawk already, and then Guard Point. Guard Point is completely interchangeable with Radical Beam, but typically you're about a 4 life leader. You're really healthy in the mid game / near the end game until you're just like almost cooked. So chose for Guard Point, but you can play either. Now, this is, again, like more of the modern build, probably what a lot of people are playing. There is one card that a lot of people are playing, and we'll talk about that in the flex. So let's go ahead and jump into the flex here, the possible cards. That card, of course, that I was mentioning is Marco. A lot of people are opting to play Marco. He answers Martial D Teach for Gecko on 5, or not Gecko, for Doflamingo. You get to play the Marco, and he puts in a lot of work in that matchup. Also for Bonnie, people love their Bonnie, people love their green. Great card to counter them because you get to play this, pop a little, and then still establish and swing. You can also, of course, partner this with Hongo and remove a 5K if that is like a desire. You play him on 3, swing 5, and then play this. Boom, you're removing a 5K. Also, Kid and Killer. Really good rush card. You can put, especially in the rush build, you can put your opponent down really low, and then these go a lot of value for their Donna 4/7. So you can go 4/7, 4/7, 9, and put in a lot of pressure just out of nowhere. Newgate is a tech card that has been seen in the builds a couple of times. I think this is one of the cards that I tend to favor. This card, I feel like, is really, really good into everything that isn't Blackbeard, but then this card is really, really bad against Blackbeard. But he does have a win attacking ability, which is also just nice. One of those things that kind of get around Blackbeard. But you play this. I like to go Shanks, then play this. You're swinging on a 3K deficit, and then you play another Shanks, and it's a 2K deficit. Then you play another Newgate, and it's a 4K deficit. And it's pretty much just like playing a 5 life, 5K power, red, purple Luffy. And that's how I like to view it when I play the Newgates. But I'm a big fan of the Newgate. I'm a big fan of the Marco. I'm playing 2 Marco in my personal list right now. Some people are playing the Shanks. I've seen the Shanks at 2. I've seen the Shanks at 1. Really good against purple Luffy. Decent against Gecko. Not Gecko. Decent to remove Gecko against Robert Lucci. And this is one of those interesting cards that like kind of popped up, but I just wasn't super aligned on. And that's Shiraya really good against BY is what I hear. And like he was, but BY has the one Luffy and he kind of just Rocket Luffy just answers this. And so I don't know if he gets the full value he did before, but I know a lot of people have played him. And then a really popular card at one point for Shanks was also Baccarat, and saw a lot of play. She's a blocker, but then also you can turn a card in your hand into a 2K, giving him a buff, which is pretty decent, because then like your bricks become 2K. So it's almost like a blocker bad manners, but that sticks around for as long as you keep this card. So a lot of people were playing this. At one point, Noel was playing this. We were playing the 5-drop ace, so you can use this, give your ace just a little bit more power for that turn, push for lethal with that extra 2K, because again, you know, we're playing for Sanji, but you know, it's really only for the Roger. Howling Gabu, it is a red hair vanilla. You can opt to play this over Yasop, and you just get a 5/7, which is a really strong stat line, best stat line in the game overall. And then of course, truthfully, any of the red, I didn't include all of the red hairs, but all of the red hairs are part of like this whole engine. But I think these, I include the ones that I think are specifically worth mentioning and talking about. Building Snake partners really well with Marco, but he's also, you know, it's 1 Don, you do a -3. You can use this for your lime juice. You can use this just to remove a threat. A lot of different applications. A lot of people running 1 to 2. It's essentially a Gordon. It is Gordon. And again, Yasop, really good in RP because it's going to make you a 7K leader on 5, which is honkers bonkers. But overall, Yasop, playable. I've played him in lists. I've cut him from lists. Feel free to see what works. Roger, again, I'm mentioning Roger here because I don't think Roger's mandatory, but I think he is really good. And the Sanji allowing you to bring yourself to 0 during your opponent's turn makes him just that much better. And Yasop, 6/8 vanilla. I don't think this card's that good, but he is an optional deck building card. And then Monkey D. Luffy, unblockable. Unblockable comes up. You can put your opponent at 0 to play the Roger. We talked about him, but he's also a great 5/6. Put a little bit more pressure on him. If you're not playing Ace, I think you can afford to play this. When you're playing Ace, I think it's a little bit harder to play this Luffy. And then we'll round it out with Jet Pistol. Jet Pistol overall is just a really great card. When you trigger it from life, it can go a long way. And then you get to use it with like these abilities. You can remove a big body building snake plus this. You're getting rid of a gecko. And then just the life trigger is pretty good. And you get Shanks minus. Just a lot of different things that can give this just a little bit more synergy. I felt like it was worth mentioning. But yeah, personally, I like to run Newgate. I like to run Marco. I think in a Blackbeard heavy format, I don't like Newgate as much, but Newgate's really good against Stofi, especially like when you're bricked up. You play this. It's essentially for every swing that they have, it's a 2K counter because you're up 2. And that's how I like to think about it. But as always, if you found this content of value, if you could do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and let me know what else you'd like to see in the comments below. I read all of them.
Haha, JK, gotcha. So I totally didn't realize this was not part of the video, so adding this on here. But essentially the last part I wanted to kind of cover was just like a Shanks core and talk about just like building that out. So essentially whenever you go into building Shanks, I included Roger just because I felt like he should be included, but you pretty much want to take this foundation and kind of do your own thing with it. You're going to want to play Otama, you're going to want to play Rayleigh, you're going to play the 10 drop, you're going to play Beckman's a staple, you're going to play Lime Juice. These are like 2 of your 2Ks. Your third 2K is going to be a choice of your own. And then also, like, you know, you're going to have Roger. Like, here are all the just OP09 cards. Like, Uda is completely optional. Some lists have opted to cut Uda. But all those cards that we've mentioned that you've seen, you're essentially going to want to take this. And then you can just kind of add in the cards that you'd like. Be it Marco, be it Ace, be it, you know, you want to play Red Hawks, you want to play Radical Beams, anything like that. You're just going to take this and kind of go from there. But any list, if you're going into building
Shanks, you're going to want to make sure you have these cards. Now, Rayleigh, 3 of, 4 of, I think either is okay as long as you're okay with it. I don't think he has to be a 4 of. I know most lists are playing him at 4, but he doesn't have to be a 4 of. But you're essentially going to take this and kind of just add in the cards that you like. You could even tech in like Red Force. I think this card isn't a bad one of. If this card was Trigger, I think I'd play 2. If it was a Trigger stage, because that 1,000 is really, really good. It's just unfortunate to have to pay from your hand, but this really puts in a lot of work overall. But yeah, you'll take this and just craft your own list, and good luck.